What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And I am back with my top 5 bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. And first of all, I must just quickly apologise here. I'm a bit sick. So if there's a bit of coughing and choking, or maybe me pausing this a couple of times to do that, my apologies. So hopefully by the next couple of videos, it's gone. But yeah, we've downed a bit of cough bottle here anyway, and we're hopefully we'll be able to get through it. But we'll power on and we'll get it done. So and I think after maybe it was the celebrations of last week that got me a bit sick, because the betting was good last week. We did well. The Derek Lewis fight didn't happen. We had the under in that. Now technically, did it go under a round and a half? I would say yes, because considering it didn't happen, it did go. But anyway, that was null and void. Our flyer, I mean, it was for a plus 900 flyer, Zhalgas Zhumagulov. She almost had her finished, saved by the bell basically at the end of the second. So for a plus 900 bet, I almost exactly called that fight to a T. If there's another 30 seconds in that second round, there's no doubt in my mind, and I think a lot of people, if you had that bet done, you would have probably agreed with me, and I think it was a good bet for plus 900. Now, didn't end up happening. She got the submission in the end, didn't she? She did, I think, and but yeah, that didn't happen. But the other 3 bets did hit, so I'm very delighted with them. 100% on the non-flyers. We'll take that, considering the Lewis fight didn't happen, as I said. We had Constantinos Intalis over in Cage Warriors, which, you know, I wasn't overly confident in, but I should have been more confident. I think he is a far superior fighter than his opponent, and he went out and he got a lot of people calling it one of the purest KOs of the year. Definitely up there for your regional knockout of the year. I think beautiful knockout. If you haven't seen that, check that out. And in the other 2 bets we had Eamon Zahabi, who won at minus 105. The Constantinos one on Cagers is plus 120, so that's a good bet. Zahabi won at plus 105. Pretty good win there after a close enough fight, really, but close enough first round. I think most people thought he won. And then Aaron Blanchfield won minus 130. 2 rounds in, I was actually about 2 minutes in, I was thinking, oh God, this bet's not happening. 2 rounds in, I was, I think a lot of people are probably tearing up their tickets and throwing them in the bin. But in the end, she did win. Now, I scored it for Nami Yunus, and yeah, I think Rose probably did enough. She, if this fight was scored as a whole, Rose would definitely have won. But that's the system we have, and Blanchfield got through it, and she managed to get the win. And not by no means a robbery or anything like that. A very, very, very close fight, and definitely an argument for her to win it. But if you're tracking my bets, you did well this week, and over most of the last few weeks, and today, the people who are hating on him, you're not doing well. So here, keep hating. There aren't that many haters. I don't know where I'm going. I just think someone on the internet is supposed to have haters, but I don't really have any. So great last week, and hopefully we'll have a good next week as well. Now, I'll be honest, this week's bets, I had them kind of planned out yesterday. I waited for some more of the prices to come out today. And when that did happen, there was one fight actually gone, the Nicholas Dalby, Zaleski dos Santos. I actually had a bet from that, so that's gone. And there was a bit of price movement over the last couple of days that actually changed a couple of my bets as well. So this weekend, I'll be honest, it's kind of a tough weekend for betting. There's a few interesting ones thrown out there, but I'll say it again. This is one of those ones where I think I might take 1 or 2 looks, but would I bet personally in all of these 5 bets? No, I don't think so. I think it's one of those weekends maybe we step back and we have a look, which is okay too. It's okay. We don't have to bet every fight. We don't have to bet every weekend. So that's grand. But I'll give you my thoughts on the 5 I have picked out, and I'll be honest, I like the 5 I have picked out at the same time. So let's get into them. Right, the first one I'm going to go for, and this is one I had picked out all the time, and I was a little bit surprised with the price. So we have Oktagon is this weekend. I have a full preview coming out. You can check that out, myself and Brian Lacey. We break down these fights even more. So the first 2 from Oktagon, and the last 3 are from the UFC. And if you're a UFC fan, you might know this guy, Zhalgas Zhumagulov. He's fighting Aaron Abbey. And his price, I'm just giving you a money line straight up price to win it. He's around minus 225. Now, again, that has adjusted a little bit since yesterday. We're still a couple of days out as I record here, so this could change again over the next couple of days. But minus 225 is the price at the moment, and I'm going with that price. I think it's a good price. There's a couple of reasons behind it. Like, I think Zhalgas Zhumagulov is one of these guys that is probably a lot better than his record suggests, and kind of where he has been in the sport for the last while, just like himself. And Ammari both have almost the exact same record. They're both 16 wins, both 9 losses. Ammari has won. Is it a draw in there or no? It's a draw, I think. Yeah, there's no contest. I think it's a draw. So basically the exact same. But Ammari's fought at a good level, right? He's fought in UAE Warriors and Oktagon and Cage Warriors an awful lot, and fought some very, very good guys. You know, guys like, you know, Sam Creasy, Samir Fadin, Gerardo Fani, Stipe Biric, Lipoli, you know, championship level guys at the Oktagon Cage Warriors sort of level. Whereas Zhumagulov, you know, he was in the UFC for a good long time there. You know, he fought, you know, the likes of Manel Kape and Joshua Van, Amir Al-Bazzi, who we saw fighting last week. He, even before that, even when he was FNG, he fought Tyson Nam and Ali Bagotinov and Shaz Haq, who's the champion over in Cage Warriors at the moment. So he's fought some very, very, very good guys down through his career. Now, he's won some of them, lost some of them, but watching him, you know, and you look at his losses. So he's been knocked out twice, 9 losses, 7 decisions. And a lot of them, if you go back and look at them, they're actually very, very close. And it's his style that I think... It's his style kind of loses him fights in a lot of ways, but his style also makes him very competitive with some very, very, very good fighters. And I think Abbey is a very good fighter, but I don't think he's the level of fighter that Zhumagulov has been facing and been getting close to, right? And that's why I think he'll win. And I think he should win pretty well. You watch Abbey's fights, and I was talking to... Brian about this. Like, sometimes, you know, I've watched Ammari for lots of years. Sometimes you kind of caught it into thinking, you know, he tries to fight in all areas, but he's very much more of a wrestler than anything else, and he tries to get guys to the ground an awful lot. Now, Zhumagulov likes to strike, there's no doubt about it, and he's predominantly a striker, but his wrestling is good too, you know, and he's well able to stop lads taking him down. Like, would I be surprised if AB took him down over and over and over? I would. And that's not usually the case when Aaron AB is fighting, you know, in a Cage Warriors fight or an Octagon fight. Even if I think the other guy is going to beat him, I think it's going to be a tougher night at the office for Aaron AB here in terms of the wrestling portion of the fight. So that's kind of the top and bottom of it, really. I think if AB can't take him down, I don't think he's winning the fight. And I have a feeling like Maybe he might get 1, he might get 2, but I don't think he'll constantly be able to take Zhumagulov down and hold him down as well. So for that reason, I'm going with Zhumagulov. I think he's better on the feet, and I think he'll win that fight. And I really think, you know, that plus 225. You know, maybe people don't like betting at those prices, but maybe if you have a parlay or something like that and you want to throw it into it, I think that might be a good one there to go for. All right, we'll go to the second Octagon bet of the night, and if I can get my tab up in here, and honestly, this one I adjusted this one too, but I'm going for Ammari Diedrick, and he's minus 110 in his fight over in Octagon against Robert Pujac or Pukac even. The reason I'm going for this is you look at both of their records, and you might think, Shawnee, kind of like, is this a case of Pukac being very experienced, or, you know, being one of those guys who's kind of set up for guys like Diedrick to win? Honestly, I think more the first than the second, to be honest, and that's why I think the price is like this, and that's why I was a bit dodgy about giving it. The other fight I was looking at was the co-main event, Matian Kersic, but I was going to give you Silva there, but I kind of like, I'm not 100% sure on that one, and I didn't want to go for it, but I do think Diedrick will win this one against Pukac. Now, to get back to my point, Pukac is 31 fights, 1 draw, and he split 17 and 13 the other way, so he's lost 13 times, most of them by decisions, and he's been in there with some very, very good guys. He's fought Christian Jungwirth a couple of times. He was headlining the last card. He's fought Mario Curtis, who mentioned earlier as one of the co-main event guys. He's been in there with Patrick Kinsell, who's one of the greatest Oktagon fighters of all time, obviously, and many, many more down through the years. And like, he has lost obviously a good few fights, but he's also like always kept in there and always won a fight. Like, he's won a couple of fights in Oktagon in the middle of like losing 3 in a row, and then he'd win one and he'd win 2 in a row, and a tough guy. He reminds me a little bit. His style is like Darren Till. He's an orthodox version of Darren Till. Obviously, Darren Till is a southpaw, but like a Muay Thai guy, a high guard, kind of slipping those front legs forward, loves a leg kick, kind of choppy striking and powerful, looks powerful and is powerful, and good defensively as well. I think the biggest issue for him is like a little bit like Till, I suppose, that style in mixed martial arts in 2021, 2, 3 or 4. I don't know if it stands up the way it used to, unless like you have a really good way of using it. Let's say like a Jose Aldo fight's very much a Muay Thai style, but it works so well for him. And the adjustments he makes to it are so brilliant. I don't think Darren Till ever figured that out, because like you saw when Till was allowed to just use his style in certain fights, he was brilliant, like against Wonderboy or against Robert Whittaker and other people as well. But when he wasn't, it was an issue. And I think the issue here for Pukac will be he's fighting Ammari Diedrick, who's a former Glory kickboxer, and I don't know a whole lot about kickboxing now, but speaking to a couple of people, apparently he was very, very good, and there's some very big finishes and a lot of knockouts there as well. Watching some of his fights, he's a guy who's still improving. As I said, only 6-2 in his career. He's now training over Team Renegade in Birmingham, where Leon Edwards, Fabian Edwards, and Joy Herbert and Ian Gary for a while train, all of that. So it's a very, very, very good gym. Now, he has a few issues on the ground, and that's his biggest issues, but is Pukac gonna bring that out of him? He probably should try to, but I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to stand on him. I think that's going to be issues. Like watching some of Diedrick's fights, really active lead hand, probably better leg kicks than, I was going to call him Till there, than Pukac, and that's some of his best work. Now the takedown defense again is improving, but on the ground is not amazing. But I just think Diedrick is probably going to be, it's probably going to be a stand-up matchup, and Diedrick is probably just that little bit too high of a level. I think if instead of being 6-2, and he was 10-2 or something like that, I don't think this price would be even close to what it is. I don't know if he gave it or not. So -110. So I think it's a really, really good price. And I do think he will win that fight. And I think he'll, he might get the knockout even, but if he doesn't, I think he can win by decision. So Ammari Diedrick, it's bet number 2, -110. Right. Let's get to some of the UFC bets. I'm going for my first bet for Denise Gomes to win by decision over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. And that is -163. Now, she is a pretty big favorite. If I can just pull it up here and find it, because these bets are all over the place. Gomez is, I believe, -500 to win this fight. She's 9-3 now, but won 3 of her last 4, beating Bruna Bazale, did lose to Angela Hill in there, but she has a lot of decisions on her record. 5 decisions, obviously, in 12 fights is an awful lot. Kowalkiewicz is 17 decisions out of 24, so a high percentage there. Now, Kowalkiewicz, she was on a good run before the last fight, losing to Lucindo. She 3 fights in a row won by decision, and 1 loss was also by decision. So there's a lot going on there. Look, I think the little bit of difference here will be Gomez hits a little bit harder, and she'll probably nick a few rounds. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's definitely going to go 15 minutes. The price for the fight to go to decision, hold on if I can just pull it up here. I was looking at that as well, and that's not a great price. So that is fight goes decision -275. So you're not making much money out of that. But if you pick the odds-on favorite to win that decision, you can get a little bit of a price hike out of it, which I think is a pretty good price. Now, I think there's another point as well that we have to look at when we're looking at this fight and a lot of other fights as well. And maybe this is 2-pointed fight, a 2-pointed point. Let's go with that. since these new gloves have come in, I haven't maybe talked about it yet, and I'm sure a lot of bettors are talking about it, but like, there's a severe lack of finishes. You know, the fight world, or the UFC world has been turned upside down. Now, look, the amount of finishes on cards is dwindling all the time. I have a book there behind me that the UFC sent out a couple of years ago, and it talked about it, gave the percentages of finishes now versus a few years ago, and there's no doubt about it, it's going down. Look, with the influx of new lower level fighters, you know, there used to be 400 fighters in the UFC, now there's 700. There's going to be a lot lower level fighters. That might bring it up a little bit, but at the top, if you're to just look at the top level, let's say if you're to look at the top, you know, 60% of UFC fighters in terms of rankings, let's put it that way, I think the finishing percentage has probably gone down more heavily in the last 2 or 3 years than it ever has before. So that, coupled with the new gloves, which seems to have worsened it, coupled with, you know, women's MMA fights as well, are there's a high percentage. We see my guy Jedi Goodman is always talking about it. It's always a winning bet at the weekends. Now, this will be the one fight that gets a finish, but those three things put together, you know, when you have an odds-on favourite and someone, you know, two women who love to go to decisions an awful lot, I think that's the smart money. The smart money. Now, the smart money isn't always the smart money, but the other smart money here, if you're looking for a bit of a bet, will probably be, you know, Kovalkiewicz to win by decision, which is plus 400. Now, I was, and here what I kind of hinted at earlier on, I was going to give that as my flyer, and maybe we'll go with a double flyer, but that Kovalkiewicz win by decision at plus 400, it really sticks out. Really, really, really does. Like, if she was to win, I think this will be a close fight. I do, as I said again, I think Gomes probably just a little bit well round. If there is a bit of a takedown, maybe she'd be able to get it, but more power. You know, Kovalkiewicz has, you know, she does what she does. She's a good long striking, a good jab and things like that. But, you know, how do you win rounds in mixed martial arts in 2024? It's the way Gomes does it. So I think she will win it. But what if Gomes is a little bit off, or she can't get down Karolina Kowalkiewicz's timing? It could be a different story. But no, we're going to go with Gomes to win the decision. We give 1.5 flyers this week for maybe Kovalkiewicz to win the decision at plus 400. So we leave it at that. Right. The next bet of the week, I was so torn between two bets here. I'll tell you the one I was going to give. I was going to give you Miles Johns to win it. I went back and I watched a few Miles Johns fights and a few bits of his fights as well. And I was so close to pulling the trigger on giving this as my bet of the week at minus 150. Actually, this has changed, I believe. Let me just have a quick look. Indeed, it has. It was minus 130 yesterday, and it's gone out to minus 150 now. It's minus 157 actually in some places. It was minus 130 on October 27 when the betting opened. So this has moved as well, which was part of my thinking. I think Miles, he goes for a lot of takedowns and he doesn't get a lot of takedowns. I think if he was to get him, I'd probably be more confident in giving him to win. And I just have a feeling on the field that Garbrandt might cause him a little bit of trouble. You know, I think Garbrandt has been looking a little bit back to his maybe cocky self a tiny bit in recent fights. So that's not the fight I'm going for. I'm going for Reinier de Ridder. Not the best price in the world. Again, a price that's moved over the last while. It was at minus 250 and it's gone out to minus 275, but I'm holding it on. And you know what? I gave you one earlier. Maybe we throw the two of these down together and go for a double. But I think the Ridder against Meerschaert is one of those fights you look at and you just think that, like, Meerschaert, he can cause the odd upset. Look what he did to Emin Shabazian coming back against that, and, you know, he beat Brian Barberin and things. But it's rarely against a guy who will either put him away early or, you know, tear him to the ground and beat him that way. Like, you know, Chimaev is obviously a standout example, but even, you know, guys with an athletic advantage over him like Jack Hermanson sticks out, or Eric Anders, or Kevin Holland, I see down here as well. He lost very, like, the guys he beats, you know, Darren Wynn, a lot smaller than him, you know, Stuffles, you know, not as athletic as those other lads. Fabinski, you could probably say the same. Eric Spicely, the same. You know, there's almost no exception in there, I would say. Like, none at all. So I think if you're De Ridder, like, and I've watched an awful lot of De Ridder over the last while, obviously, look, kind of, usually when you see a guy coming out of the Netherlands, you're thinking, oh, this guy's going to be a real kickboxing expert and everything like that. And he can kickbox, but my apologies. He's more of a wrestler, submission artist. Let's see how many submissions he has in his career. 11 submission wins out of 15 wins altogether, and 4 knockouts as well. Look, I think he won't have much problem taking Meerschaert down and beating him, and that'll be that, to be honest. Once he gets him to the ground, I think he'd be a big problem. Now, at the same time, De Ridder is 34 years of age. I think those 2 losses to Anatoly Malyakin were, and he did relatively well at times. In the first fight, it ended in the first round, but, he did relatively well at times. And in the second fight, it was really competitive for the first while. But he really stood out to me as a guy who loved being undefeated and, relished being undefeated. And when that went, it was an issue. Now, he had 1 fight outside, 1 championship, fought in the UAE Warriors, and I think that's probably just a transition to the UFC more than anything else. So I'm interested to see how he goes. As I said, I'm picking him to win. I think if it was a stronger opponent than Gerald Meerschaert, I would be less likely to pick this, but I do think he'll be able to take Gerald down. Gerald, and it'll be a good indication of where De Ridder is at the moment, but I think the better indication will be the next 3 fights, and then we'll go from there again. I think a win here after winning the last fight, and another win, and he could do anything. Like, 'cause this division is very light, as we know. There aren't many good wrestlers in it at middleweight, and De Ridder could be one of those guys to come forward. So that's bet number 4 of the week. Reinier de Ridder. And the final bet of the week, I'm going for the main event. Prates against Magny. I'm going for Prates to win in round 2 at plus 350. Looking at Magny and Prates, they're very much on a trajectory of, we almost certainly know who's going to win. And maybe that wouldn't have been the case a year ago. Like, Prates is minus 700 plus 550 for Magny. Magny, just looking at his record here, has, he started to get finished, obviously, a little bit. Mike Malott almost finished him, but he didn't. And then Morales did, and obviously Ian Gary almost finished him and did destroy him in the end. So those are these last 3 fights. So I don't think the Magny of old that's going to, like, that Ian Gary fight was a really tough fight on him. And, I don't think people give Ian Gary enough credit for that, right? I think that took an awful lot out of him. And I think, the Malott fight was one, probably a good fight for him in terms of, like, Malott probably isn't as good as those other lads. And then Morales is as good. And then that was issues. I think Prates will do very similar to what Morales did to him. But you look at Prates, right? And it's generally a little bit longer. It takes him to kind of beat guys. He's won how many fights in a row? Now a pile of fights in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 or 14 fights in a row. But if you look at the wins, right? And I'm going for second round finish here. 3 of the last 4 finished in the second round. He's 3 or 4 first round finishes in, but if you look at him, 4 minutes 47, 4 minutes 15, 3 minutes after that. A lot of late round 1, early round 2 sort of finishes, like even back in the day. Let's see how many round 2 finishes he has in his career. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 round 2 finishes. That's an awful lot for a guy who's only 20 fights in his career. What's that? 40%? That's pretty high, to be honest. So give me plus 350 round 2 finish. I'll take it. I just think he's going to box him up. I think his boxing is really good. I think he's big power. I think Magny will avoid him for as much as he can. And if you're Magny, I think you have to be so careful here. And I think he will be. So we'll go with that. We'll go with Prates round 2. Right, let's dip into the other odds and tell you what else we'll be looking at this weekend. Invicta have a card as well. There was no stick out bet to me there. Like, I like Ducote and I like Deanna Bennett, but they're both big favorites, minus 650 and minus 450 respectively. Shani Young as well as probably the other one, minus 650. So a lot of, there's no real pick'em fights. They're the only one. Amanda Torres and Victoria Leandro, I don't know a whole lot about them, I'll be honest, but so those ones are pretty close there. There is one championship as well this weekend. Again, very, very big in terms of, Maliakin's a massive favourite there. Rotolo is a massive favourite. And Miura as well is a massive favourite. So not a whole lot there. And Moraes as well, massive favourite. The only one I would say, Amir Ali Akbari, I think he's minus 163. I definitely think he'd beat Buchecha. So that's the one I'll give you there. Elsewhere in Oktagon, the main event, that main event is not happening. The main event is turned around. There isn't betting for the main event. Actually, I was looking at one place, and I'm for the Bushing or Hafini price. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I trust the price or not that I saw, so I'm going to leave that, right? Fodor and Fodor, actually, that fight has changed as well. There's been a lot of changes to this card. Leandro Silva and Curtis is the other one that's still happening. Plus 120 for Curtis. Silva minus 163. Honestly, I was going to give you Silva as one of my bets, as I said earlier on, but I just couldn't pull the trigger. I really couldn't. Maybe I want, I'll probably just lean for him, but I don't. I'm really stuck on that one. These two lads as well, Polyak against Rosavi, pick'em fight. A lot of pick'em fights in this card, funnily enough. Looking back through my notes here and talking about these lads, like a lot. I was talking to Scott from over in Octagon. He was telling me a lot of people have a lot of high hopes for this Johnny Polyak guy. His team apparently are non-stop talking about him, and then Rosavi won the Octagon Challenge a couple of years ago. So, maybe are you taking the fact of what he did, Rosavi, or the talk about Polojak? Do you know what? We're betters here. Like we'd probably take the talk, aren't we? So we go for Polojak at minus 110. And I must finish this up quickly here before my coughing gets too. I actually thought it'd be way worse. I'm thankful it's not too bad. So the UFC, honestly, again, I think it's a tough week. I'll be honest, my favorite bet of the week was the Zaleski dos Santos against Dalby fight. I really liked Zaleski. He was minus 120 at one stage, but that fight's not happening. I always like your bit of Dusko Tatarovic as an underdog, plus 290. This Mansour Abdul Malak looks a good fighter. Stamen against Blackshear, plus 230. Minus 270 for Blackshear. It's probably the way to go. I'll be honest, I'll probably go for a lot of the underdogs here. I'll probably go for Smellisberger as an underdog as well, at plus 163, kind of on the undercard here. But I would, Trayshawn Gore, hit and miss type of guy as well. I think the price at minus 185 is probably just enough if you're, you want to do your, 10 leg parlay or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them a whole lot in there. And in the top of the card, or further up, but anyway, Robertson against Panera. Robertson's on a real run over the last while. I do like her. She's minus 345. Talked about a lot of the other fights. Then we talked about Garbrandt, we talked about Gomez and Kovalkiewicz, and we talked about the main event as well. But just to give a couple more prices there, Prates, best price minus 700, upwards of minus 800 in other places, plus 550 for Magny. Prates to win by knockout is probably the bet that a lot of people are looking for. And that is, if I can pull it up here, best price minus 275. Like, that's not amazing. The under prices are also not amazing. The one I would probably go for is under 1.5 rounds at plus 104. I think that's probably the best way to make money out of it. But again, not amazing. So we will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. I will just recap the bets. Zhumagulov and Diedrick over at Oktagon, minus 225 and minus 110 respectively. Gomes by decision, minus 163. Reinier de Ridder, minus 275. And Prates to win in round 2 at plus 350. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you all next time.